camera for a minute.
Okay. All right.
No. And I'll start her off. Hey, welcome everybody to another edition of How God Saved Me. And this is going to be another good one. This is a really good one. I got Russell here with me. And before we get into his story, I want to first talk to all of you about why we do this. It's important for you to understand that each one of us, like Russell and myself, we have a story. What got us to this point in our life from being the idiots we were? At least I know I was. So.
Yep.
And what did God do to change who we were to bring us to this point? Well, I'll have you know that that's an important part of the Bible, is for you to tell your story. Okay, God doesn't want it hidden. He wants you to tell it because there's someone out there right now that's waiting. They're waiting to hear your story, and it's going to change their life. Someone's life is going to change tonight just because of Russell. And I encourage you, if you have a desire to be a part of this show, if you want to tell your testimony, get a hold of us. Put it down in the comment field there and let us know all about it. And if you have any questions when you hear this interview, would you please put them down there in the description as well, in the comment field, because if you want to talk to Russell after his testimony, if you want to get to know who he is, he's real. I'm telling you right now, he's real, okay? So if you want to get to know who he is, he's got a great story, and he's quite a character. That I can tell you right now right off the bat. So on that, Russell, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me on. This is an absolute blessing.
It is. It really is.
I'm so glad. You and I, a couple of years ago, I want to say, kind of like briefly talked about like, oh man, I'd love to share my story,
right.
and now here it is. I'm sitting down with you, and we're gonna.
It's pretty awesome because Russell does his own podcasts and so forth, and it's pretty crazy because there's people that I know you're busy, and I know I'm busy, and sometimes the kindred spirits. The ones that are most alike, they miss each other because they're always so busy.
Yep.
Okay, but other people are connecting with us, so we finally get it. We're here.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
We're in the same room, and I'm thrilled about this.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
It is. It is. So I'm going to go ahead and start the interview again. Along the way, if you have like a question or something that you want to know more detail about, please leave it in that comment section. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So Russell, life is always, for all of us, we sometimes can have a hard time. Most of us who have stories, we usually came from, or if we came to know the Lord late in life and really committed ourselves, a lot of times we find out that there was a reason behind that.
Yep.
Now I know you yourself also. Life's up and down.
Oh yeah.
And the same thing with you online. If your life's been up and down, don't let that stop you from jumping back in the deep end with the Lord. He wants you back. And after you hear Russell's story, you're going to realize that, okay, wow, this is great. He can take me back at any point. So, Russell, tell me a little bit about your childhood. Was it a good childhood? Was it medium, bad?
No, I actually had a really good childhood growing up. I lived at home with both my parents. They're kind of, in my eyes, like what I want in a marriage is just two people that suit each other so well. I had a great childhood growing up, watching them and how much they were in love and stuff. Even today, I always tell my friends, like, oh yeah, watch my parents when we're out walking, because they're in their 70s and they still hold hands, and I think it's the most adorable thing ever. Like when they're like walking in front of me and all of a sudden they're like holding hands, I'm just like, oh, that's amazing. Like two people that are completely made for each other, and it's really good. So
didn't know he was a hopeless romantic, did you?
Oh, very much so.
That's
very
awesome.
much so. I'm an old soul. I say that I still would love to be able to court. For people that don't know what that is, that's actually like trying to get the girl's attention, dating her, showing her the love and affection.
I'm glad you explained that.
Yeah.
Some of the younger viewers right
they'd be like, court? He wants to go to the basketball? Like what? So, but yeah, I'm very much a hopeless romantic. But yeah, so childhood for me was any normal childhood.
Okay, so it wasn't like we've had some people on that they were beat and things like that.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
So you had a good childhood.
Yeah, my mom always said, like, if I got out of line, she always had this little spot of hair right back here. She would just grab and hold. And I would pull away because you're a kid and you want to get away from that. And I would be like, you're pulling my hair. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm not moving.
Wow.
And then the running joke, even to this day, I'm 41 years old. And the running joke today is my mom's bat will hit harder than anything I could ever dish out.
There you go.
So that was always distilled like in us as kids. Like my bat will hit harder than yours, and she never actually had a bat. She never hit us. Like it was just she put the fear into us. Like, hey, you get out of line, I'm gonna take care of it.
I have an Italian mom, so she wasn't. My dad was Italian, but my mom knew the wooden spoon. So the wooden spoon. Anyway, so that's good. So really, nothing was really that rough for you as far as the whole family structure and stuff. So. So what started happening in your life? Tell us what started happening there.
Oh man, so I want to say it was probably 6th grade, 12 years old. Yeah, about that. I became friends with a kid that was a couple years younger than me. His dad actually had property up north.
Right.
And I would spend my summers up there helping out on there. They had a 20-acre farm, and
cool.
His dad had a rule that if you worked on the farm, you either chewed or smoked cigarettes. And I was like, well, I'm not going to smoke because that's gross. So can you chew? Again,
chew's not gross, just cigarettes.
I was like, 6th grade, so 10, 11, maybe 12 years old, somewhere in there. And I didn't really understand the concept of chew, so I just put it in my mouth and was like, man, this is burning. And then I got the mouth full of spit.
Sure.
Well, I didn't know you were supposed to spit.
Oh.
And I swallowed and I threw it up and I said, give me cigarettes. So that's when I started smoking cigarettes.
Okay.
And I actually only smoked cigarettes during the summers because I couldn't get cigarettes at home.
Sure.
And have mom and dad find out that, hey, our kid that's in 6th grade, 7th grade is smoking cigarettes.
Summertime smoker.
Okay. Yeah, I was a summertime smoker, and it progressively got to where I was able to find somebody. I had a dealer, I guess you would say, that was buying me cigarettes, that lived local, and he would buy me cigarettes. And then I was hiding cigarettes from mom and dad. I was hiding cigarettes at my school, so I didn't have to freaking bring them home with me. And I was smoking before school, after school, while I was in middle school.
And this was, you said 6th grade?
This is now probably right around 7th grade, maybe 8th grade, is when I was able to get somebody that was buying me cigarettes, and I was hiding them and putting them in Ziploc bags and shoving them in the bushes that were off school campus. So,
did that pursue other things?
Oh, very much.
Now you're lying to parents. You're smoking, and you're also lying to them.
Yeah.
So, the whole 9 yards. So what else started happening at that point?
So at that point, I actually got to where it was really weird. I was a conflicted Christian. I call it a 6-to-1 ratio. So 6 days you're living deep in sin, and then 1 day a week you're in church, you're praising God, you're sitting with your fellow Christians, you're worshiping. And then church is over. Now, okay, time to go back and lead back into my 6 days of sin.
So you were raised in a Christian family.
Yes.
Okay. So you can see this can happen to anybody. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you're raised in a Christian family. 6th, 7th grade, right in that range, you start smoking, and other things are starting to happen. Mm-hmm. Okay. Why do you think? What led you to thinking that was okay? Was it?
Honestly, I don't even really think that I thought it was okay. It just kind of happened.
Was it just a rebellious act?
And then it was just there. Like, it just kind of became part of my life. Like, it didn't really, I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong, even though I was lying to my parents all the time.
Sure.
I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong as far as smoking cigarettes. I was playing in my church's youth group worship team. I play bass guitar. I started playing bass guitar when I was, I think, 13.
Okay.
Cool. And then when I got into the middle school, I was playing in the worship team. I was praising God on Sundays, going to youth events on Wednesdays because we had teen night that night. And I really was living as a two-faced Christian. Yeah. And I did that for many, many years.
Okay. When did things start to come off the tracks?
Oh man. I think I was 20 years old. So this is way after high school. In high school, actually I take that back. In probably my sophomore year of high school, I had already started doing drugs. I started doing drugs when I was...
Okay. But before that, right before that, was it a progressive trail of getting there? Or did you feel like you came back to the Lord, or what?
No, I pretty... So, the youth pastor that I grew up with, he ended up moving and leaving the church. He moved back to Colorado to finish his degree for ministries.
Did that affect you?
Very much so.
Okay.
And Darren, if you watch this, I'm not at all saying you're the reason that I slipped and went. Had nothing to do with it. Amen. It just was a hard time of my life because I looked to him as my big brother.
Sure.
I babysat his kids when him and his wife wanted date night. I would go to their house and I would babysit for them.
Which shows the importance of who we are as Christians. Russell and I just actually talked about that, the importance of you and how other people look at you, okay? And you have an impact on someone's life, as Russell does, as I do, and so we're in the limelight no matter what, so we have to kind of watch what we do. So.
Yep. And so when he left, the youth pastor that stepped in, he changed a lot of things in the youth group. And as somebody that had watched the youth group go from 40 kids up to like 75 kids, and then the new youth pastor stepped in and we went from 75 kids every Wednesday down to like 13.
Oh, wow.
Nobody really liked how anything was happening, like how things were happening. We'd have a youth room on Sunday service that had 20 to 40 kids in it. Every single Sunday. It was like that was our congregation for youth.
Wow.
And we went down to where we had like 10, maybe 15 on a good day.
Wow.
And I presented it to the youth pastor. I'm like, we need to go back to how things were. I know you want to change it, but it didn't change it for the good. We lost our entire congregation, and him and I actually got in a little bit of an argument, and I left the church.
Okay.
I left the church. I didn't even go on Sundays because I was like, I can't watch what I watched grow. I can't watch it just be dilapidated. There was nothing there. And I told my parents, I was like, I'm not going back to church.
Okay.
So I guess that's about when things started kind of doing the roller coaster for me. And then, like I said, in 10th grade, I started doing extracurricular activities.
Extracurricular in our world usually means drugs and a few other things.
Yes, very much so.
We'll just be kind of blunt right there. So
yeah.
It's okay. Sometimes it's hard to get that first thing out because you know that there's a lot of people who might be looking at you like, oh, there's Russell. I've always wanted to hear his story.
Yeah.
And that first time you have to kind of confess and say it. Yeah, I was doing this, and people are kind of like, what?
Wait a minute.
Seriously, dude?
Yeah, so the very first podcast you and I have told you about was all about recovery. And in that podcast, I started it off with, Mom, Dad, this is 100% real. You guys have never heard any of these stories. I literally just got goosebumps.
Wow.
But I was like, you guys have never heard these stories. I'm sorry for always lying to you. But I'm not ashamed of my past. I even told you that.
Yeah.
You can be 100% and ask me whatever you want. I'm not going to lie because I'm not ashamed of who I am.
Are you a firstborn? Or are you the only born or what?
No, I have 2 older sisters.
You have 2 older sisters, but you're the first boy?
Yes.
Okay. Mama's boys are always, it's that way. There's a bond, okay? I'm not going to interrupt his story, but I want you to see his arm. I really like that. I've been attracted to it. My story isn't over yet. And that's a big part of your life right here. So,
very much so.
And so this is where it all begins. So tell me about some of the down and dirty, gross. I'll bring a trash bag over.
Of course, yeah. No. So I started doing heavier drugs. I was smoking weed. I was doing a little bit of shrooms, psychedelics, and stuff like that. Like I was really into the psychedelic side of drugs. I never did the hard stuff, so I never did meth. I can't say I never did coke because I did coke one time,
sure,
but I didn't know it was coke because I was 11 years old and it was in my friend's dad's bathroom. And I did one of these, and I was like, that is not anything we should have. Like, I didn't know what it was. So
every good 11-year-old has Coke nearby, right?
Yeah, it was totally nothing. I was like, why is this in your dad's bathroom? Looked at it, I'm like, this is not what we... You got to try it, though, because it makes your mouth numb. Like, that's pretty cool. 11-year-olds don't try Coke.
Don't do this.
Actually, anybody don't try Coke. Like, seriously.
I'll put the disclaimer down below.
Yeah. So I never did any of the hard drugs.
Okay.
I was all about the pharmaceuticals, or the psychedelics. As I got a little bit older, into my like 20s, like early 20s, I started. Actually, I was 19. I had just graduated high school. Started doing painkillers.
Okay.
Got hooked on painkillers. I liked the way they made me feel.
The opioids, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's...
And gosh, that's really hard for me to like think about. I liked how they made me feel. I liked that I could go for the guy that was my dealer. So the guy that was buying me cigarettes in middle school ended up becoming my dealer. He was like, I know you buy cigarettes. Have you ever tried weed? I was like, no. And this was, I think, freshman year. He's like, well, here's a little bowl. Just put this in your pipe. And I'm like, well, I don't have a pipe. He's like, okay, well, here's a pipe. Go ahead and try it. I'm like, all right, cool. Tried it, got super high, and was like, this is amazing. This is way better than cigarettes. Because if you've ever smoked a cigarette, you know you get the nicotine high. So you get like this little buzz and like your skin kind of tingles a little bit. I had lost that because I had been smoking cigarettes for so long that I never actually got the nicotine high. Now it's just like, I need a cigarette. A cigarette. I've got to have this. And eventually that's what drugs became in my life.
Okay.
Was I need these. I need these in my life. So once I started that, and then it progressively just got harder and harder and harder and harder. And then I got to where I was doing pills. I was feeding that. I was just eating them like Tic Tacs. So whenever I hear somebody say, oh man, I popped those like Tic Tacs, I'm like, yeah, you really shouldn't use that phrase, because popping them like Tic Tacs to me is a really big problem. Yeah. Like that's a horrible problem.
And the opioid industry, it's a problem, and the struggles that I have with that whole industry is that most of the people who are addicted, you wouldn't even know it. You'd look at a normal kid and you'd say, oh, he looks good. He looks like a good Christian kid. And maybe he's not, because opioids have become an epidemic. I know that my son Cameron would say that it's okay that I'm telling this, but he struggled for numerous years, and it led him to bigger and bigger things. Mm-hmm. And he's now he helps me whenever we talk. I talk to people who are suffering on drugs, especially in opioids, and we're able to talk to them about it. He wants to give his input all the time on that. So
that's amazing.
So it's good to hear that a normal person like Russell got involved in the opioids as well. So
yeah. And so I got to a point where I was doing supply runs, basically being a mule for my dealer.
Okay.
And I would go to his house. I would pick up a bag of whatever. I never looked inside the bag, because that's a rule. If you're a mule, don't look in the bag and don't ask questions. So I would just show up. He'd hand me a bag. I'd drive to wherever I needed to drive to. I would hand it off to somebody. They'd give me another bag, and then I would go to his house and go, here you go.
Okay.
Sometimes he would give me like $500 or $600 cash, and that was to pay for gas and my time. Other times it was, well, how are you doing on supply? I'm running pretty low. Okay, cool. Instead of cash, here. And he would hand me a quart-sized Ziploc of painkillers. I never asked him where he got them from. I just know that if I did these every once in a while, I had a supply of painkillers. And I was getting to where I had a full-time job. Nobody knew that I was doing this horrible in life. And I actually would take between 3 and 4 painkillers every single day, and I would crush them up. I would cut open a tea bag, pour them in there, and make like a little dip pocket. And I would shove it down in one side of my cheek. And while I was at work, if I drank water and kind of went and swished it, it would get a little bit of that, the pill mixture mixed into the water, and it would maintain my high the whole day.
Wow.
While I was at work. And it got, that was not a proud point in my life whatsoever. But I always called it the MacGyver pockets because I grew up loving the show MacGyver. Like,
sure.
I always thought that guy was awesome. MacGyver, in case you don't know, could create anything with duct tape and a piece of gum and make it blow up. Like, it was amazing. And so I always called them the MacGyver pockets because here I am. I can't just obviously pop pills every couple of hours at work. So I'm like, there we go. Yeah, being creative.
MacGyver pockets.
Yeah, MacGyver pockets.
Would you consider?
Just kidding.
Would you consider that to be your lowest point, or does it drop even further?
It drops even further than that. So in 2000, well, let's see. This is 2025. So 2005. Towards the end of 2005, I wrote a suicide letter.
Okay.
And that's why that tattoo right there means so much to me. I wrote a suicide letter, and in that letter, I went off on God. Okay. I felt like God abandoned me. I felt like God didn't care about me, that he didn't love me.
Okay.
And in that letter, I wrote to God, and I said, if you were alive today, not right now, obviously, if you're alive at that point in my life, I said, if you were alive today, I would kill you myself. And I said, it's because of everything you've let happen in my life. You're not around. I'm looking at demons when I'm out doing things. I'm looking at demons while I'm looking in the mirror.
Right.
I can hear the demons all day, all night. That's all I see was darkness. I didn't see any of God's light. And I told God, if you don't want me to kill myself, you need to make something happen within a week. If not, I'm going to end my life.
It's amazing how, no matter how bad we're hurting, we always want to blame God.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know God back in my days. And somehow I conjured up the ability to say that, God's the reason why I do this and so forth. And I didn't even know who God was. It's amazing. And if you're suffering right now and you're blaming God for things in your life, you need to know that can change. He's not to blame. You're the only one that's to blame. And I'm gonna let Russell finish this part out, and so we can understand more of this.
Yeah. So, about 3 days after I wrote that letter, I was at home with my mom and dad, and my mom walked up and said, "I don't know what's going on in your life, but I know something's going on. And you need to call this person because they're waiting to hear from you."
Wow.
And
it's impactful when God uses your mom to do that too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, especially because I thought I had been hiding everything.
Yeah.
Moms
know everything. Next to God, it's mom.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, like whatever, like give me the number, I'll call. And it was my old youth pastor that I looked to as a brother, and I hadn't talked to him in years.
Wow.
And he answered the phone, and he said, "What's up, Booney?" So Booney was my childhood nickname because when I was younger, I had rabbits. And I was at church one day, and I said, "Oh yeah, I got to go home and feed my Booney rabbits." And they were like, "A what?" And I was like, "A Booney rabbit." And then my brain processed, I said bunny rabbit really funny.
Yeah.
So it became my nickname was Booney, or Boon Dog is. So here I am, whatever, okay. And he goes, "What's up, Booney?" And immediately I just started crying. I was like, "Darren, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, dude. I don't know where I'm going with my life." And he said, "Well, pack your bags because you're coming to see me."
Woo!
And he lives in Colorado. And I was like, okay.
And you were here at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So did he fly you out or something? Or
so my mom and dad bought me a plane ticket because my mom gave me the ultimatum: go and see Darren or get out of my house.
Wow. That's hard coming from mom. We're both mama's boys, and it's like, wow.
So I flew out there, and his family went to church. And on Sunday morning, when I was supposed to be doing this, so if you can't see that, it's actually It looks like a gunshot wound, because that's how I was going to end my life, was a gun.
Okay.
Sitting in church Sunday morning when I should be putting a gun to my head and killing myself. And the whole time I'm sitting there, the pastor's talking, and I know in my heart and in my mind what I saw wasn't actually happening, but the whole time that pastor was talking, he was talking like this, and he was preaching, but he was doing all of this the entire time. Wow. He was looking right at me the entire time, and I know that he was looking around that congregation, but everything he was saying was hitting me.
Yeah, God has a way of doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Making sure that, Russell's going to show up. I think I've got a message for him.
Yep. And then while I was sitting there and I was listening to the pastor talk, I could just feel God coming over me. And the pastor said, somebody in this church needs to come back to God. And all I heard, and it's clear as day, it sounded like God was right behind me. He said, look where you're at and look where you wanted to be. Do you really think I'd ever actually let you leave? Yeah. And to this day, that is what drives me to not go back to drugs, not to get away from God. Was knowing that I clearly heard God's voice tell me that he never left me.
It's so amazing too when, for those of you, you'll have that God encounter in your life where you know that you know that you know. Mm-hmm. And you'll say it where you'll know that God was behind me. I could hear him. You can almost feel his breath. You could, and God, he did that to me in my life in numerous occasions. I want to encourage each of you. God will meet you where you're at. The Lord will come to you and he will meet you where you're at if you allow him to. And that's the thing about you, Russell, is that you had the intentions of doing something. Yeah. But your heart was still moldable.
Oh yeah.
But you didn't know it. You're just mad as heck.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what happened? What happened that day was
So I completely lost it sitting there. Because again, I'm sitting in church, the worship team's up there praising God and playing some worship music at the end of the service. There was nobody sitting behind me in that church. And all of a sudden I hear, do you really think I left you?
Yeah.
And it was almost so clear that I almost wanted to just kind of...
Yeah.
But I didn't, because I knew who it was. And I confessed right there. I started crying.
Yeah, that's good.
I saw the pastor after church, and he could see that I had been crying. And I walked up to him and I said, I want to say thank you for letting God use you as a beacon to talk to me. And he was like, I can see you've been crying. What's up? I'm like, I'm sitting in your church today. I was supposed to be on a beach with a gunshot wound in my head. And, whew.
What a ride, huh?
That just, wow, got to me.
The Lord is so good. And, to sit there and think, and, until you're in that position, you knew how real it was.
Oh, yeah.
And, and to think that, somebody would say, oh, well, you just had a good day and you just didn't end up killing yourself. No. God saved his life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This shows how God saved me. Well, right there, this is the starting point.
Yep.
Had he not listened, had he not done what he was supposed to do, those steps, because every one of us has those steps in front of us.
Oh, yeah.
We get to choose which path we want to go down.
Yeah.
You chose the right paths, and you ended up going to this church in Colorado, and God saved him.
Yeah.
God saved him. And, to think, and we forget about all the harm, all the hurt that could have happened afterwards. You wouldn't have been around. Your mom, think of the suffering there.
Yeah.
And that alone, can destroy a person. But so God did an amazing thing. That's what I'm so thrilled about.
Oh yeah.
Now you're on the up.
I'm on cloud 9 now.
What happened?
Okay, so did the normal, like, man, I ended up going to school for pastoral ministries to become a youth minister.
Here we go.
God, I was actually there in Colorado. I moved to Colorado, and I was like, or actually I went back a year later to visit.
Okay.
I wanted to go visit Colorado again. And while I was there, I kept noticing this like tower thing in Colorado Springs. And I was like, I don't know what that is. But I ended up going there, and I found out that it was actually a Bible college. And God said, look where I brought you. Look what I want you to do. Now, mind you, we'll back up here a little bit. 7th grade, I was baptized. Uh-huh. 7th grade, when I got baptized, God told me I was going to go into ministry.
There you go.
And I went completely the other way.
Yeah. The Lord said, no, I have you on a hook.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely, you must be a fisher, because I was going to say, I took the hook and I went the opposite way. I ran that line out as far as God would let me, and He pulled me right back in.
Isn't that wonderful?
And it's amazing. And so I went to school for pastoral ministries. I was struggling because I had no financial aid. I was taking out school loans to pay for school. Okay. I was working a 45-hour to 50-hour job, going to school full time. My checks barely covered rent and the necessities, to the point where I was racking in credit card debt to get food. And I think I told you about this, that me and a couple of my friends, we always joke about who could make the best casserole using like noodles and hot dogs. I can make about 7 different dishes as long as I have the right spices with noodles and hot dogs.
Every good bachelor knows these things. So we have a couple books. If you want our books, on recipes, you let us know.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. And so I ended up praying about it because I wasn't doing very good in school. I was trying as hard as I could, but I could not make school work. I knew where God wanted me. I knew what God wanted me to do, but I could not pass the classes to do it. And I said, God, I'm struggling all the way around. Like, I need you to intervene. I need help. I'm not doing well in school. I was like, I'm struggling on my day-to-day life. I ended up moving back. Okay. Didn't go back to school. I moved back here home. Had a job lined up. Show up, and they didn't have a job for me. They cut the budget for my position. So I went through like a month of kind of struggling, trying to find a full-time job. And I found a job working in an apartment complex, was able to unbury all of my credit card and financial loans with this job. And then was still praying to God, talking with God, doing my Bible. Not as much as I should have, obviously. But I was there, and I was making it a point to say, God, I know I'm struggling with you and me, but I'm not walking away. I'm just trying to figure out life right now and I'm trying to do it. And the whole time I could tell God was still there with me. He's like, no big deal. Like, we're good. And then I ended up, right before COVID, going back to school for pastoral ministries.
Awesome.
Didn't tell anybody, because I am the type of person that if I'm going to do something and I know I'm going to succeed, then I'll normally tell people, I'm doing this. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. I had already went to school once and I failed. I didn't want to be like, I'm going back to school, Mom and Dad. I'm going to do this. And then fail again. Yeah. And look, in their eyes, I wouldn't have looked bad, but in my own head, I didn't want to fail at the same thing twice in front of them. Yeah. I didn't have a laptop. I didn't have a computer. So I did all of my school projects on this cool little thing that we all call smartphones.
Which now is why he wears glasses.
That's exactly right. I did all of my assignments, all of my emails, everything were all done on my cell phone.
Okay.
And 2020, January, is that right? Yes, January, I submitted my last assignment and officially became a minister. And it's just been kind of, after that, I've just been kind of like riding the waves. I've been just enjoying life. Met you guys through church, which is amazing. I met amazing people at that church. And I actually just met, so I'm a full-time CNC machinist.
Okay.
The guy that comes in and repairs our machines, his name's Eric. Him and I were talking, and I told him, yeah, I'm just kind of doing this weird like church hop thing. Like I'm going from church to church and looking and watching churches online and going. And he's like, oh man. He's like, my church is actually doing a church plant in Linwood. Mm-hmm. He's like, you should check us out. So I went online, I found some of their old sermons, and it hit me like God was just like,
that's great.
This is where you're gonna go. Like this is where I want you.
That's awesome.
And so yeah, it's been talking with Eric and like watching their church and stuff. I've just been fired up, and that's like honestly like just the last couple of months that happened. Before that, in December, I'm okay to talk about this, right? Now riding the wave here?
Ride the wave.
All right. All right. So, in December of this last year, the last 3 Decembers, I actually have made it a point in my life to read the book of Luke. I think it's Luke.
That's the famous Matthew, Mark, Luke.
Yeah.
I know the move I know it well.
Yep. So it is Luke. So if you start reading, I want to say it's Mark now. If you start reading the book on December 1st and you read 1 chapter every day, you will read a complete depiction of Jesus' life by the time you reach December 25th.
That's great.
And it's just been this really cool thing that I started a few years ago, and I make it a point every year to do it. I'm like, I'm going through, I'm going to read this again. Like, we all know he was born. He did some amazing things in the middle there, and then he died and did the most amazing thing. He sacrificed himself for all of us and all of our sins. So halfway through this month of December, I could just feel God like convicting me. And he's like, look, dude, you went to pastoral ministry school. I wrangled you out of the darkest pit you've ever been in your entire life. And yet you don't spend any time in my word. What's going on? And I was like, you know what, God, you're right. I don't have a good reason for not being in your word. I don't have a reason for why I'm not reading it. And I went with, I'm just tired after a long day. And immediately God hit me back with, because I was really tired to carry that cross for you.
My.
And immediately God just hit me at the knees and I dropped. I'm like, you're right. I got nothing. I got nothing. You weren't busy enough to die for me. I'm not busy enough or tired enough to come seek you. Yeah.
God will do this sometimes, He'll meet you where you're at, and he'll talk to you at the level that works for you.
Yep.
And if he has, sometimes he's going to use an axe on people like us.
Oh yeah, very much so. And so I was like, okay, God, like let's just keep rolling with it then. And so I read, and I keep reading, and now like I just can't get enough of God's word.
That's beautiful.
And it's been amazing. And January happened, and we were like a little ways through January, and God kept bringing up baptism and bringing up forgiveness, and then he'd bring up baptism again, and I was like praying about it. I'm like, God, why do you keep putting baptism in front of me? Why is that such a big topic in my life right now? And the more I prayed about it, the more I read about baptism, God made it really clear to me that before I wandered away, I was baptized.
Right.
And then I was not baptized. Because I sinned. I asked God for forgiveness in my life. I did all of that. Like, I know I'm forgiven. I know that my past is my past.
Right.
But I know I'm forgiven. And God said, you need to get rebaptized.
Yeah.
It wasn't me saying, I want to be baptized again. It was God saying, I'm putting you on a road to something amazing right now.
Yeah.
So this year's is the road to 20.
Yeah, and he mentioned this to me about the road to 20, and you're going to like this. And for all of you who don't know, when it comes to baptism, the thing about baptism is that's our public gesture to show people that, look, I'm going to bury the old Russell, and I'm going to come up the new Russell, and I want each of you to see it. Okay, so I encourage each of you, if you're young in the Lord, old in the Lord, if you haven't been water baptized, do it. Show that public display of, because God wants that from you. Yeah. He wants you to tell everybody that I know you as my Lord and Savior, and that's good. Tell us about this project.
So the whole concept behind the journey that I'm on with God right now, the road to 20, is the next. Let's see, we're in March, so the next 10 months. I am going to be growing as close as I possibly can to God, learning more about baptism, learning more about God, learning His Word even more, to put it inside of me so when time comes, I can display that knowledge and that love on other people. But the road to 20 that God has me on right now is December 14th of this year will be my 20-year sobriety anniversary from drug addiction. It just so happens that the 14th of December this year falls on a Sunday. I am getting re-cleansed and re-washed in the blood of Christ, and I am going to be baptized to show everybody, this is my Lord and Savior. Look where I was. Look where I'm at. The old me is going to die. The old me has died. But now I'm a completely reborn person.
And 20 years.
20
years of sobriety.
20 years of sobriety.
If Russell could do it, let me tell you something. If he can do it, you can do it.
Yep.
You can do it. And you have the strength. You just don't know. And and if you want to get a hold of Russell, you certainly can. Just put something in the comment field. Let us know who you are.
Yep.
And I promise you, I'll make sure that Russell gets it, and he's going to help you out there. So we have lots of ways, lots of resources that will help you in your journey.
Yeah.
Russell, it's quite a journey ahead.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So, yeah, it's been an amazing journey. It's something that I'm not ashamed of. And like you said earlier, I'm a complete open, honest book. If you have questions, you can add them down in below. Or even if you just want to find me on Facebook, you totally can, and we can have a conversation. I'm not ashamed of who I was or who I am.
I'll put all of his pertinent information down in the description, because Russell's an open book, like he said.
Yeah.
And, our testimonies, like yours right now, it's meant to share.
Yeah.
People, we have a story that will affect someone else's life. There's someone right now, I guarantee you, there's someone right now that has heard Russell's story and it says, I want to be him. I want to be just like him. And so I encourage you, if you have a story to tell, would you please get a hold of us? Yeah. Put it in the description. Get a hold of us through the church, ANewDayChurch.com. And please, we would love to work with you, okay? Because, wow, what a testimony.
Yeah.
What a story. And like as your arm says there, let me read it one more time. What it says, my story isn't over yet.
Yep.
And that was almost like a prophetic statement.
Oh, yeah.
When you had that put on.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that when we interview him again, maybe in the upcoming years here and stuff like that, or through other things, we're going to hear some new stuff that we're going to say, my story isn't over yet.
Yep.
So,
and that one, I'm kind of covered in tattoos. I've got Romans 12:21 right here. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. That's another one that's me. But this one right here, so the semicolon, which is what the gunshot wound looks like. The semicolon is actually an awareness that's out there right now for people that have had suicidal thoughts, suicidal tendencies. The purpose of a semicolon in writing is to carry on something, not a period to end it. So if you see somebody that has that tattoo of a semicolon, most of the time they have them visible. They're on their necks or they're on their wrists. Even if you don't know the person and you see it, just say, hey, I see your semicolon. I'm proud of you. It won't change their life. It'll make them so happy. I actually have seen many people that have their semicolons, and I just look at them and I go like this. I'm like, proud of you.
That's awesome. That's a good word from you.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
And, so now that I do, I'll be looking for sure.
Yeah.
Russell, is there any parting words that you want to tell everybody about where you are now and how they should view life and so forth?
I guess just for me, if you're looking for the answers, pray, ask God, look in His Word, and honestly, just don't quit. Don't give up on life. Even if you're at a point in your life where you want it to be over, continue on with the semicolon. Don't end it.
Yeah. This show is all about this right here. This is just amazing stuff. I've known Russell for a while now, and I can promise you that I had no idea that he was at the level he was with the whole wanting to commit suicide and so forth, because sometimes we're good at hiding that.
Oh yeah.
And that's the problem with sin.
Yeah.
It's the problem with pride.
Yeah.
Okay, is that we want to hide those things in there. I would encourage you that if you're struggling in any form, please get a hold of us. Do not struggle alone, because we can't do this alone.
Yeah.
We can't do this. Russell didn't do it by himself, and he had a youth pastor that he was able to get back in touch with, and once that happened and he recommitted his life, God was all over.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very much so.
I don't do tattoos because I don't like needles.
Yeah.
I hate to
Me
say
either.
that. but if I could do it, I'll tell you what, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And that's someone who loves the Lord. And so, guys, this is quite a testimony. I thank Russell for being here.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it so much. This is how God saved me. And again, I encourage you, please, if you have a story to tell, you have a story to share just like Russell. Let's hear it. Let's hear that story. Let's make sure that the world hears just how good Jesus is. Yeah. And he did everything for us. Let's show a little love back to our Lord, okay? Thank you for watching tonight. Thank you, Russell, for everything.
Thank you.
We appreciate you so much. And please leave us a comment, hit that share button and the thumbs up, and thank you for watching. Well done, my man.
Perfect. Thank you.
Wow.